Stop begging. I don't mean stop praying. I mean stop doing the thing we've been taught to call prayer, when it's really just fear trying to sound holy. Because there's a difference between asking your Father and trying to talk him into caring. And if you ever prayed with your chest tight, voice shaking, mind racing, like you had to get the words exactly right or the door stays closed, then you already know what I'm talking about. Here's the line that's going to sting a little, but it might set you free. Jesus never prayed like a man trying to convince God. He asked, yes, and he even taught us to ask. But if you watch him closely, you'll notice something. He never sounded like heaven was reluctant. He never sounded like love had to be pressured. He never sounded like the Father needed persuasion. Think about your last desperate prayer, not your calm prayer, the desperate one. The one at 2 a.m. when you were staring at the ceiling, rehearsing worst-case scenarios, and you started stacking pleas on top of pleas because silence felt like danger. The one where you promised God you'd change if he would just fix it. If you know that feeling, type yes in the comments. Not for the algorithm, for you. Because naming it breaks the shame. And let me say this clearly before your mind turns on you. That begging isn't proof you don't have faith. It's proof your nervous system is in threat. In neurotheology terms, your brain is trying to survive uncertainty, your body is bracing for disappointment, and you're trying to speak belief through a clenched chest. That's why you can love God and still feel like you're praying into a wall. Now let me show you the moment that exposes the difference. Right before Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb, he prayed. But he didn't stand there performing desperation. He didn't plead, and he didn't bargain, and he didn't act like the Father was far away. He lifted his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." Past tense. And that one sentence is the method, because it doesn't just change what you believe, it changes the state you pray from. It takes you out of panic and back into connection, so your prayer stops sounding like fear and starts carrying the quiet weight of being heard. So stay with me and don't rush past this. Just notice what happens inside you when you picture your own tomb, the situation your mind has already labeled as final, because we're about to shift the way you stand there, and your body is going to feel the difference before your circumstances do. When you beg, your words might be aimed at God, but your body is aimed at danger. That's not a metaphor, that's biology. Begging is what the brain does when it believes the outcome is uncertain and the stakes are high. And the reason it feels so intense, so urgent, so spiritual is because your nervous system is flooding you with survival chemicals that were designed for one thing: keep you alive long enough to solve the threat. So when you whisper, "God, please, God, please, God, please," what's often happening underneath is your amygdala firing like an alarm. The amygdala is the brain's threat detector. It doesn't care if the threat is a car speeding toward you, or a fear that your marriage is falling apart, or a diagnosis, or money, or the feeling that you're about to lose someone. It just wants to know one thing: are we safe right now?
And when the answer feels like "I don't know," it hits the panic button. That's when cortisol rises. Cortisol isn't bad, it's fuel. It mobilizes energy, sharpens certain kinds of attention, and prepares your body to act. But here's the problem. Cortisol is also a storyteller. It makes your mind interpret uncertainty as danger. It narrows your focus to what could go wrong. It pushes you into scanning, rehearsing, looping, and trying to control. That's why begging doesn't just sound desperate, it creates desperation. Because when you pray from that state, the brain isn't receiving prayer as connection. It's receiving prayer as an emergency strategy. Your body is basically saying, "We're not safe unless God answers right now." And if you've ever finished praying and still felt your chest tight, still felt that buzzing under your skin, still felt like you needed to keep talking, keep pleading, keep explaining, that's not you being unspiritual. That's your nervous system still activated. This is where neurotheology gets really honest, because it shows you something most people never say out loud. You can believe in God and still live in a brain state that experiences God as distant. Not because God moved, but because threat chemistry changes perception. When the amygdala is driving, it hijacks attention. It pulls resources away from the parts of your brain that handle reflection, empathy, long-term perspective, and flexible thinking. It's harder to feel loved when your brain is in protect me mode. It's harder to feel held when your nervous system is yelling, fix it or we die. So prayer becomes this exhausting cycle. You feel fear, you pray, you don't feel relief immediately. That uncertainty reads as danger, so you pray harder, you add more words, you add urgency, you add tears. And without realizing it, you reinforce the association. If I don't beg, nothing happens. That's why some people feel guilty when they try to pray calmly. Calm feels like irresponsibility. Peace feels like giving up. Stillness feels like you're not fighting for your life. But Jesus wasn't fighting from panic. And that matters, because the Jesus way isn't just a better technique, it's a different internal operating system. Remember what we said about Lazarus. Jesus stands in front of the tomb and says, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." That is not the language of an anxious nervous system. That's not someone trying to convince heaven. That's someone already anchored in connection. Now let me show you why that's powerful neurologically. Your brain is a prediction machine. It's constantly guessing what's about to happen next based on what has happened before. When you've been disappointed, when you've been traumatized, when you've prayed and felt nothing, your brain starts predicting, this won't work. I'm alone. I'm going to lose this. God won't come through. And then your body follows the prediction. Your chest tightens, your throat constricts, your breath shortens, your thoughts speed up. That's your system preparing for loss. So the spiritual battle often isn't happening out there. It's happening in the space between what your brain predicts and what God promises. That's why the phrase renew your mind is not poetic, it's clinical.
Renewing your mind is the process of interrupting old predictions and training new ones until your nervous system stops treating uncertainty as a threat and starts treating God's presence as reality. That's what faith actually looks like in the brain. Faith is not pretending you're okay. Faith is the ability to stay connected while you're still in the unknown. And this is why begging is so draining. Begging keeps you fused to the unknown as if it is the final truth. It keeps your attention glued to the absence of evidence. It keeps you staring at the sealed tomb, emotionally speaking, rehearsing what death means, while Jesus is standing there speaking from a different center. Here's another layer. When you repeat desperate phrases over and over, the brain can enter a loop state. It's like your mind is walking in circles inside the same room. That loop is reinforced by stress chemicals, and it becomes self-sustaining. In anxiety and ill faith, this is what people often call spiritual warfare, but neurologically, it's rumination fueled by threat. So what breaks the loop? Not louder words, not more begging. What breaks the loop is a shift in state, a shift in breath, a shift in attention, a shift in what your body is rehearsing as true, because your body is always practicing something. When you beg, your body practices scarcity. When you thank, your body practices trust. When you agree with God, your body practices safety. And the wild part is, your brain doesn't only change through ideas, it changes through repeated states, through repeated experiences. That means if we can help your nervous system experience prayer as safety instead of emergency, your mind starts renewing naturally. Your attention becomes wider, your breathing deepens, your thoughts become less catastrophic. You start hearing scripture differently,
not as a demand you must live up to, but as a reality you can step into. Let me pause and check in with you right here, because this matters. When you pray, do you feel yourself relax or do you feel yourself tighten? Be honest. And if you've never noticed, pay attention tonight. Your body will tell you what your brain believes. Because here's the core truth underneath all this. Jesus didn't perform calm. He lived from communion. He lived from union. He lived from the kind of inner anchoredness where the storm doesn't become your command center, where the tomb doesn't become your theology, where lack doesn't get the final word inside your body. And the reason this video is titled the way it is, Jesus never asked God for anything, is because what looks like a shocking statement is actually an invitation. It's an invitation to stop treating prayer like a transaction and start treating it like alignment. Not, God, please do this, as if God is reluctant, but Father, thank you, as if connection is already established. Now, I know what you might be thinking. If I stop asking, am I being passive? If I stop begging, am I ignoring reality? No, you're not denying the tomb. You're refusing to let the tomb decide your internal state.
And in a moment, I'm going to take you deeper into the Lazarus story, because the most overlooked part isn't what Jesus said at the tomb. It's what happened before he got there, and how he handled the pressure of other people's panic without letting it infect his spirit. That's where the method becomes practical. That's where it becomes yours. Let's go back to Lazarus, because the tomb scene is powerful, but the real method starts before the miracle, in the part we usually skip. Jesus gets the message first. Lord, the one you love is sick. Pause right there. Because if you've ever been in that moment, you know what your body does. Your mind starts writing the worst ending. Your heart speeds up. You start trying to fix things before they fall apart. You start praying like you're sprinting after a door that's closing. But Jesus doesn't sprint. He doesn't panic. He doesn't perform urgency just because everyone else feels urgency. In fact, he delays. And this is the first hidden key of the lost method. Jesus refuses to let other people's fear become his internal weather. Because fear is contagious, anxiety spreads through tone, through facial expression, through pressure. And you can be around people you love who are panicking, and without noticing, your nervous system starts matching theirs. That's why some of you can feel peaceful alone, but the second you talk to family, the second you open your phone, the second you walk into the situation, your chest tightens again. Jesus models something different. He doesn't deny the problem, he just refuses to let the problem become the center. And then, when he finally arrives, Lazarus has been dead 4 days. That detail matters because in the ancient world, 4 days means final. It means decomposition. It means the smell. It means nobody is expecting a comeback. Spiritually speaking, it's the moment where your circumstances are not just hard, they're stamped with the feeling of inevitability. And that's where Jesus walks in. Not into a hopeful room, into grief. Martha comes out first, and she says the sentence that so many of us have said in different forms. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Do you hear what she's really saying? She's saying, I believe you can, but I don't believe you will now. She's saying, God, you missed the window. And if that's ever been you, you're not alone, because that's the exact place begging comes from. Begging is what you do when you believe God is good, but you're terrified the moment has passed. Then Mary comes and she says the same thing, but with more emotion. Same words, heavier grief. And now the atmosphere is thick. People are crying. The pressure is rising. This is where most of us either shut down or start performing spiritual intensity to manage the discomfort. And Jesus does something that reveals both the heart of God and the psychology of healing.
Jesus weeps. Not because he's helpless, not because he's unsure, but because love is present with pain before it ever fixes pain.
If you miss that, you'll misunderstand the method. The method is not be robotic and speak positive. The method is not bypassing grief. The method is being so anchored in the Father that you can feel everything without becoming hijacked by it. This is renew your mind in the most embodied form. It's the ability to stay connected to God while emotion is real, while the room is heavy, while people are panicking, while the outcome is not visible yet. And then comes the moment that changes the entire concept of prayer. Jesus stands at the tomb, and before he speaks to Lazarus, he speaks to the Father. But listen to what he says. He doesn't ask, he doesn't plead, he doesn't bargain, he thanks. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. That sentence is the tool, because thanksgiving in this context isn't a polite religious habit, it's an act of alignment. It's Jesus refusing to let the tomb be the loudest reality in his inner world. It's him choosing the Father's attention as the most real thing in the room. And when you do that, you're not trying to convince God to come closer. You're letting your nervous system come back into communion. That's why this is neurotheology, because gratitude changes state. Gratitude shifts attention. Gratitude widens perception. Gratitude tells the brain, we are not abandoned. Gratitude interrupts the threat loop. Now I need you to catch the order because it matters. First, Jesus thanks the Father for hearing him. Then he speaks with authority. Lazarus, come out. Not, Father, please. Not, God, would you maybe. Not, if it's your will. It's command language, but not command language rooted in ego. Command language rooted in union. That's the lost method. It's not asking from distance, it's speaking from closeness. Most begging-style prayer is trying to bridge a gap that Jesus already closed. It's prayer that assumes separation. It assumes God is on the other side of reluctance, so it tries to push through with more words. But Jesus prays like someone who is already heard. And this is where your whole inner life can shift. Because if you keep approaching God like you're trying to persuade him, your nervous system stays in pursuit. It stays in striving. It stays in not yet. And you will call that faith, but your body will experience it as anxiety. But if you approach God like a child who is already held, then even before circumstances change, your state changes. Your mind starts renewing. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts stop spiraling, and then you can speak to the situation without being swallowed by it. Let me make this painfully practical. The verse tool here isn't ask harder, it's alignment language. It's, Father, thank you that you hear me. Not because you're pretending you got what you want, but because you're stepping out of the lie that you're praying alone. And that one shift is the doorway from begging to authority. So here's the moment I want you to imagine. What is your tomb? What is the place in your life where your brain has decided it's over, it's too late, it can't change, it's final? Now imagine walking up to it the way you normally do. Tight chest, rehearsing loss, whispering please. Now imagine walking up to it like Jesus did, feeling everything, not denying pain, but saying quietly, Father, thank you that you hear me. Do you feel the difference? That's not just theology, that's nervous system training. So here's what I want you to do. Don't try to fix anything yet. Don't perform faith. Just notice your body right now. Notice where you tighten when you think about your tomb, because in a second, I'm going to walk you through the exact shift Jesus made at the edge of that tomb, step by step, out loud, until your chest loosens and your mind stops fighting the unknown. All right, come closer for this part. Not emotionally, like hype, I mean practically.
Because what we're about to do is not a religious moment, it's a nervous system shift. It's you learning how to pray the way Jesus prayed at the tomb, in a way that actually changes what your body believes is true. So wherever you are, don't force anything. If you're driving, keep your eyes open and just follow with your attention. If you're sitting, let your shoulders drop a little. Unclench your jaw if you can. And if you feel resistance, that's okay. Resistance is just your brain guarding an old pattern. Now bring your tomb to mind. Not the whole story, not all 10 fears, just one. The one that makes your chest tighten when you name it. The one that makes you want to rush, fix, explain, beg. Hold it gently in your awareness, not to obsess, just to be honest. And notice your body as you look at it. Where do you feel it? Throat, chest, stomach, your hands, your breath? Because the goal isn't to escape the feeling. The goal is to stop letting the feeling drive the conversation with God.
Now, take a slow breath in through your nose. Not a dramatic breath, just a real one. Let it fill low, like you're breathing into your ribs. And as you exhale, let your shoulders soften again. One more breath in. And as you exhale, here's the first line. Say it out loud if you can. If you can't, whisper it in your mind. Father, thank you that you hear me. Don't rush past that. Let it land like a fact, not like a wish. Father, thank you that you hear me. Now notice what your mind wants to do. It will want to argue. It will want evidence. It will want to say, but nothing's changed. That's the old prediction machine. That's the anxious brain trying to protect you from disappointment. So we're not going to fight your mind. We're going to lead it. Breathe in again. And exhale slowly while you say, very gently, I am not praying alone. Again, I am not praying alone. Now stay here for a moment and just feel the difference between asking God to come close and recognizing He already is. Because the whole begging pattern is built on a hidden assumption, separation, the feeling that you're shouting upward into distance. But Jesus didn't pray like that. Jesus prayed like someone already heard, someone already held, someone already connected. So we're going to add one more line, and this is where your nervous system starts to relearn safety. Breathe in, and on the exhale, I release the outcome without releasing God. Say it again, slower. I release the outcome without releasing God. That means you're not passive, you're not giving up. You're just refusing to make your peace dependent on evidence. You're refusing to let the tomb decide what's true about the Father's presence. Now, with your tomb still in mind, I want you to picture yourself standing there the way Jesus did. Not numb, not pretending, fully human, but anchored. And say, Father, thank you that you hear me, even here. Again, Father, thank you that you hear me, even here. Now let's do the part people misunderstand. This isn't about never asking God for anything as a rule. This is about the state you ask from. Because you can ask as a child who was held, or you can ask as a person who feels abandoned. And those two prayers come from two different nervous systems. So if you need to ask from connection, ask from peace, ask from being heard. Take a breath and say it like this. Father, I trust you with this. Again, Father, I trust you with this. Now sit in silence for 3 seconds. I know silence feels uncomfortable when you're anxious, but silence is where your brain learns there is no threat right now. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now check your body again.
Is your chest a fraction softer? Is your jaw less clenched? Did your breathing slow down even a little? That is not imagination. That is your nervous system learning a new pathway. That's renew your mind, moving from concept into experience. And I want to invite you into something simple. If this helped you feel even 5% more anchored, do two things. First, type heard in the comments, not as a performance, as a marker, as a moment your brain can remember later when it tries to spiral again. And second, if you want to help other people who are stuck in anxious, exhausting prayers find this kind of peace, hit like and subscribe. Not for me, make it a mission, because there are people who love Jesus and still feel trapped in panic, and they don't even realize there's another way to pray. Now keep this protocol for tonight. Don't wait for a crisis. Practice it when you're calm, so it's available when you're not. Father, thank you that you hear me. I am not praying alone. I release the outcome without releasing God. And when you stand at your tomb again, you won't have to beg your way into peace. You'll remember you're already held there.